Welcome. It's time. It's time to drop in, open up, and receive. It's time to remember. It's time to believe. Let's elicit the beautiful, the good, and the true. It's time for me. It's time for you. Hello, and welcome to the channel. I'm your girl, Jillian Melissa. This is the first time I'm recording an episode at night, so you'll hear my voice is perhaps slower and softer. That's not always what happens at night for me, but it's certainly what's happening tonight. My neighbor has been doing construction the past 2 weeks or so, and it's from sunup till sundown, and it is so loud. And as soon as the workers leave, it's like this incredible exhale. I can hear my thoughts. I can breathe. And that sensation, that release is such a beautiful energy to bring into today's episode, which is a continuation, a sequel of the last episode about attachment. And who knows where else this will go. I have a bit of a roadmap and also leaving a lot of spaciousness in the blueprint for emergence, right? That's what channeling is. Emergence, presence. So while the last episode was meant to have the architecture of an energetic tunnel, tonight, I aim to give you a ladder. Let's talk about ladders for a second. I've been looking at ladders all day, every day out the window. I do sessions from my living room and right out the window, right hop, skip, and a jump over that fence, my neighbor's construction project. There are men on ladders all day long. You ask Jillian, why don't you shut the blinds so you don't have to look at them all day and look at ladders all day? You don't need to look at ladders all day. Well, dear listener, helpful listener, I require a ladder to charge the blinds. The house that I'm currently residing in has blackout curtains that are controlled only by a remote. And those curtains lose their charge, like all things robo. And in order to plug in a charger, you need to stand upon a ladder. And I'm not big on ladders. I've been afraid of ladders since I was a little girl. I'm not big on climbing up ladders, and the ladder that the owner of this house possesses in the garage is so heavy, I can't lift it. My guy friends can barely lift it. It requires multiple people. So in the past, when I've needed a ladder, I've used my neighbor Blake's. And it's always, hey, can I borrow your ladder to turn off the smoke detector? Hey, to charge the blinds, to fill in the blank. The thing about ladders is we ascend them to do work, right? Change the battery of the smoke detector, charge those blinds that are high up, work on a house, work on a roof. We're not just elevating for the sake of sight, for higher awareness. We elevate and then we do work. Ladders have that functionality. So my hope today is that we rise up, we have that elevated gaze, but more importantly, you have the positioning and the leverage to do the work that you need to do around attachment. That will most likely remain the predominant theme, because it's ultimately what we're all always confronting. My friend Erica just texted me wishing me a happy belated birthday as I was contemplating attachment to a vision I once had of her. So we'll start by talking about attachments in visions. This is for my psychic squad, my intuitive fam. When we have a vision of a future event, you see a scene playing out in your mind's eye, and you have the psychic wherewithal to know that this is a precognitive vision. This will come true. You're someone who has visions. That's what I'm talking about when I mean a vision. You have a history of having an experience flash in your mind's eye, and you have data from your past that indicates that these visions then come to fruition. And in the beginning, it requires a large deal of faith to believe in the veracity of your visions. But it's also an important part of intuitive development to not get hyper attached to visions. I had this vision once, and I share this story because I hope for those of you who are psychics, who are seers, and who may be struggling with attachment, this can soften that grip, that tight grip. Because your psychic skills are meant to make your life feel better, not worse. So I had this vision about a conversation that Erica and I were going to have. I remember when I had the vision that I distinctly heard that it was going to happen tonight. It's very rare that I get a vision and then get a timestamp for it. More often than not, when I've had a vision, it's been something that's been very far out. Like the first time I had a vision about having sex with my ex, we didn't actually have sex for like 3.5 years after that vision. I didn't get a timestamp of like, it's going to be Halloween 2022 or whatever it was, like I didn't get that at the time I had the vision. I just knew this is going to happen. I can feel that this is a truthful vision. This is not just my imagination. This is not just a desire. This is a vision, which has its own qualitative structure. It's very rare I get a timestamp, but I got that timestamp about Erica. Granted, we were in the midst of a challenging moment. We had just gone through a friendship breakup where she basically shared with me that my psychic sight made it really challenging to be friends with me. That, she was afraid I was judging her if she wasn't living an intuitively guided life. Interesting little slip I just made there. And how confronting and challenging it is to be so intimately seen. My sight is very glaring, and I think people often fear that I'm reading their minds or invading their privacy, or I can see things they're ashamed of or things that they're hiding from other people, masks that they're wearing. And I was devastated at the time, like fucking destroyed. She was my only real close friend in person. I had friends from my past, but in this new town I was living in, she was my person, and I just felt so gutted. And anyway, we didn't speak for I think it was 2 weeks, 10 days, something, I don't know. And she was ready to talk. I wasn't. We kind of flip-flopped, I think, when each of us were ready to maybe say something. But I felt, okay, you know what? If you don't want my sight, it was kind of fuck off, this is how I see. I can't control, I don't intentionally invade. I'm super conscientious about my boundaries. I'm super meticulous about my ethics, my delivery, all this. Put a lot of thought into my ethic and my code of conduct, and those who've gone through Ignite Your Intuition with me know how much I hammer that in. But yeah, okay, I'm all right, you don't want to be my friend, great. Another friendship breakup. I'm a pro at this, but I was devastated. Okay, so I have this vision of a conversation we're about to have, and it's going to happen tonight. And the vision took place at Wrench and Rodent, which is an awesome sushi spot in Oceanside. And so I was at the beach, living my life, and then I'm like, okay, I guess I got to go to Wrench and Rodent for dinner because I'm supposed to have this conversation with Erica tonight. So I intentionally went there thinking we're going to have this clearing conversation and rekindle something or just be able to connect in a more loving way. Maybe clear the air, maybe mend things, maybe start over. But I felt the energy of the conversation. I heard the conversation verbatim in my mind. I thought it was more of a template. It turned out to be literally that exact combo, pretty much. But so I went to Wrench and Rodent, had my great meal, and the whole time I was kind of like on the lookout for her because I had the vision. She wasn't there. I finished the meal, I pay, I leave. I'm like, okay, I guess I was wrong. Interesting. Whatever. Okay, that was weird. Why did I get such clear guidance that it was going to be tonight? Odd. Very odd. And then I'm driving home to my beautiful little bungalow experience, stop at Cream of the Crop, which is a local supermarket, little shopping extravaganza I wanted to have. Who knows what I got? And then as I'm getting in the car, Erica approaches me, and she was in the parking lot. So she confronted me, and then we had the conversation in the parking lot. This was all by divine design because at that time, I was much more attached to my visions and attached to the details within them. The vision was at Wrench and Rodent, the sushi place. So I figured, okay, the conversation is going to happen there. But that was just giving me sort of a backdrop, an environment. The vision, the important part of the vision was showing me you're going to have this clearing conversation. Like, here are the things you need to say. But because my guard was down in the parking lot, I was able to be more present. And there was also this sort of like caught off guard energy, surprise element that added some adrenaline to my system that I wouldn't have had as I was waiting there thinking she's going to approach. So there was a lot of it that was completely divinely designed, and also taught me a valuable lesson about attachment to visions and attachment to details in visions. Doesn't matter so much in this story, you know, and I love Erica dearly. She's actually coming in a week to visit. So hopefully, hopefully you're cool with me sharing this, Erica. And, you know, all is well that ends well, but attachment to visions, you know, we can attach to the setting like I did. Sure, I really thought it was going to be at the sushi place. So like I went there and I'm, you know, on high alert looking for the whole night eating my sushi. No big deal. It was actually at the parking lot of Cream of the Crop, whatever. Okay. But what happens to someone like me when I have a vision of my wedding and I see my groom and the man that I am going to spend the rest of my life with? But what if I'm learning another lesson in attachment? And maybe just like the setting of that Erica vision got swapped. What if the man, the character that, you know, is in the groom suit, the face at the end of the aisle waiting for me, what if that is switched out, right? So like, what if I have a vision of it being one particular person, but actually that's meant to just awaken me to the idea that I'm going to get married and I'm going to have a wedding, and there is a man out there who adores me and loves me and chooses me fully and trusts himself enough to commit to our relationship and desires monogamy with me and all of this good stuff, right? And perhaps my imagination at the time or my subconscious at the time could only project the image of the man I'm dating or the man that I'm in love with. So that gets plastered on the vision. And if I become overly attached to that, I can spend a lot of time sort of energetically chasing a man that maybe isn't even mine. Maybe everything about the vision, maybe the flowers in my dress and the setting and the color of my pedicure and everything else is correct, but the man is not, right? So it becomes a real exercise of discernment, and there are certainly ways to ascertain, right? It's not like every vision is just a crapshoot. And we can do another whole episode about visions, but just really interesting when we contemplate attachment as it pertains to our psychic sight, because I know so many people, myself included, have gotten really attached to the story of a particular love affair or a particular outcome because we had a vision of it. And perhaps that vision is going to come true exactly as we had the vision, but we get visions for a reason, right? You don't have visions about every single thing that happens in your life. If spirit is delivering a vision to you, there's generally a reason why. And it's generally for your upliftment, for instilling confidence, for bolstering you, right? I needed to like have that vision and see myself hold my own with Erica and say the things I needed to say and be in that energy and sort of watch my nervous system act it out, like mirror neurons firing when you watch someone do something. But when it comes to psychic sight, attaching to what we see can become problematic. I want to talk about attachment in so many different ways. And so if this feels a little bit hodgepodge, I do apologize. Also, as I said, it is later at night where I'm sort of sleepier and I'm more in a flowing energy as opposed to an outline. But I think that a lot of us are aware of the phenomenon that I'm about to launch into, which is the post-breakup glow up. The post-breakup glow up. For my baddies out there, you know those breakups are the best thing that ever happened to you. It's like, give her a week, she's president of the United States. Give her a month, she's like the hottest girl you've ever seen. Women take breakups and they run. They glow up, generally, for the most part. It's not to say men don't glow up. I'm sure there are plenty of men who glow up. But more often than not, this is a female phenomenon. Generally, in heterosexual dynamics, often after a breakup, the man kind of disintegrates, loses his sparkle. He generally has a boyfriend glow that he loses, and it's sort of the opposite. The women have often been suffocated inhaling boyfriend air, and when they're released, there's a massive reclamation of energy, and they really start to shine. Some of that is internal power reclamation, but a lot of it is the alchemy of rock bottom, which is what I want to talk about now. The alchemy of rock bottom. A powerful, powerful process. You probably know it as a phoenix rising from the ashes. When we're talking about breakups, and I'm feeling guided to remind you, ask your body what you need. If there's anything you need is yapping in your ear. Continue to ask yourself that always, not just when you're listening to my podcast or any podcast, but when you're working, when you're cooking, when you're taking care of your children, when you're watering your plants, when you're living your life, continue to ask your body what it needs. We get so attached to our mental body, our minds, that most of the time people's energies are so up in their heads, they don't even remember that they have toes. They don't even feel their feet on the floor. And for those especially who are intuitively gifted or energetically sensitive, the upward thrust of some of the energies you're tapping into can literally like make you levitate, feel as if you're so disconnected from the earth. So it takes such intentional effort to ground, and connecting to your body is always a great portal into that. What does my body need? Wow, I'm dehydrated, etc., etc. I was dehydrated. I probably still am, but yeah, let's do some more water, folks. Today was wild, but I'll tell you about that in a bit. Okay. We're on the post-breakup glow up, the alchemy of rock bottom. For some, the relationship was rock bottom. And when they choose to leave it, or when the breakup occurs, that is already their phoenix rising from the ashes. The leaving is the liberation, and it's already the start of the upward trajectory. Because the relationship was truly the rock bottom. For some people, the breakup itself is the rock bottom. The moment where the rug gets pulled out from underneath them, or everything falls apart, where they lose the one they love the most, they lose their power source, they lose their best friend, their divine companion, and they have to build themselves back up from the ground up. Either way, whether the relationship was your rock bottom or the breakup is your rock bottom, it's still a phoenix process. It's the destruction of something and then the alchemy of it into something new. The alchemy of it into something new. We'll do a whole episode about alchemy. Don't you fret. Now, as a sidebar, Well, it's not really a sidebar. It's the bar, baby. It's the bar, baby. Oy vey. If you're a monophobe, you're afraid of being alone, or a +1-aholic, right? Addicted to always having a +1. That's saying the same thing with different language. That's saying the same thing, but either looking at the phobic, fearful side of it, or the holic, addicted side of it, right? This harkens back to avoidant and anxious attachment. Two sides of the same coin. If you are so fearful of being single and alone, all of your relationships are going to carry that energy with them. Every relationship in your life will manifest as an avoidance of self. Desperate attachment to connection, so rife with anxiety for fear that you'll end up single and alone. Right? If you never face that fear of being single and alone, that's what happens. All of your relationships are an avoidance of self. And so even if there's genuine attraction or appreciation of the other person, there's such a charge. You so desperately want to hold on to them, and you so desperately want to push away the experience of being single and alone that it's like a rubber band that stretches. Eventually that's going to snap and bring those two things crashing together. It's going to backfire. By being that fearful of being single and alone, you actually ruin the opportunity for true connection. And that energy of desperation often attracts the wrong type of people. It often attracts people who are playing the other side of that coin, the avoidant side, right? And avoidance is very magnetic, right? If you're trying to release something, you don't do that by just repelling. Fear and avoidance are attachment. When you fear or avoid something, you actually draw it closer to you. That's how avoidants are able to be so magnetic. You draw it closer to you. You don't actually repel it. That's why people say you manifest what you fear, and fear is faith in the wrong God. I said that in the last episode. I want to take a moment and expand on that. This is our sidebar. This is where the sidebar goes. Fear is a type of faith. When I say that, people are like, huh? There was a sort of prophetic minister man named Chris something or other. His last name starts with a V. I'll look it up and edit that in at some point. He was talking about the different kingdoms and, essentially how you discern between the light and the dark. And he was talking about fear and faith using such a beautiful analogy, which I'm going to borrow. A little kid in a playground, maybe let's say like a 3-year-old approaches you and threatens you with violence. You're an adult man. Say you're a 40-year-old man. You're not going to be afraid of this little toddler if he doesn't have a weapon, right? Because you know that he can't actually hurt you. You're a strong 40-year-old man, and this like helpless 3-year-old little boy who's only recently learned how to put sentences together, has no weapon, is not going to be able to hurt you in any way. He's no threat. Now, if a 35-year-old gang member approaches you, perhaps with weapons, you might be very afraid because you believe in this man's capacity to really hurt you. Right? You have faith that he could actually inflict harm. So fear is putting faith in the wrong energy, in the darkness. Anyway, removing that sidebar. If you actually want to let go of something, fear and avoidance, because they're attachment, they're just going to draw it closer, as we said. In order to truly let go, you actually have to lean in. You have to come closer to it, whatever it is, and neutralize it. So if you're so afraid of being single and alone. You actually have to be single and alone and learn to, at the very least, tolerate it, not be afraid of it. In the highest expression, actually really come to enjoy it. When life throws someone adversity, a shitty experience, if they choose to digest it and alchemize it, not sink into it, not be buried by it, but be present with it, that's when they can have a phoenix rising from the ashes moment. They can go to the heart of the thing that they don't want and thus be freed from it. You can experience loss, tragedy, grand disappointment. You can experience the very thing you were so terrified of, drop into the experience, be forced to accept it, and in accepting it, you are freed from it. Then you can actually rise above it. Right? So if you actually neutralize the fear of being single and alone, then when you step into connection, it can be true, genuine desire that brings you and keeps you in that connection, rather than feeling this neediness, this gripping because you can't be alone and you have to be with this person. You're just choosing to be with this person because while you enjoy being alone, you actually enjoy being with this person more. There's a spaciousness, there's a purity. Of course, we don't have to wait for life to throw us adversity to face the things we fear, the things we avoid. We can face them at any time. But I think when people contemplate attachment, they often think of the things that they're really attached to. Like I think about, I've been attached to my career. I've been attached to my perceived twin. These are things that I've been gripping to. But I'm also attached to the things that I avoid and to the things that I fear, right? It's the other side of the coin. It's an opportunity always to engage deeply with our lives, with ourselves. Show yourself you can navigate and survive anything, even things that are deeply uncomfortable to you. And thus, there's nothing to fear. There's nothing to avoid. And then you're free to actually walk your path. When you release the attachment, when you release the fear, when you release the avoidance, you're actually free to walk your path without tripping over your own feet. Without tripping over your own feet. So when we have any sort of charged relationship to something, we're probably going to be asked on a spiritual journey to neutralize that charge, right? Otherwise, you're never operating out of true desire or magnetism or genuine preference for an experience, which is what the divine wants of us, but rather you're operating out of desperate avoidance of another experience. And anytime we're manifesting, so if we go back to the idea of attachment in manifestation, if I'm manifesting a great sum of money, let's say I'm manifesting $7 million, I'm going to be confronted with everything in my life that upholds a system of scarcity, right? If I want to install a program of wealth, I'm first going to have to deinstall a program of scarcity. This is a neutral process, but it can feel like punishment. It can feel like a bad, dark process, especially if I'm heavily identified with a programming of scarcity. If I'm especially attached to my program of scarcity, if I have stories about that's who I am, right? Again, I have to go into the heart of the thing that you don't want. I have to go into the heart of the thing I don't want. You have to go to the heart of the thing you don't want and neutralize your charged relationship with it. Often when people are manifesting, they feel like their manifestations are backfiring. They're not backfiring. It's just that you have to do alchemy to get to your manifestation. This happens every time you're trying to expand. You're probably going to have to dip into its opposite before you get the thing. That's just how it goes. So then your desire of the thing is not just an avoidance of not thing, right? We're releasing attachment so then we can actually be in our divine center and actually be truthfully magnetic and not just grasping or clawing or pulling or tugging. In the previous episode, It's Time to Detach, I described the manifestation culture, that to be magnetic culture that has you envision your manifestation and then detach from it, attempt to detach from it, right? Like, don't worry so much about the details or don't care. And there's a gaslighting quality to that. But there's also a truth in we do need to detach. We do need to release our attachment. I think where people get tripped up is if I'm trying to manifest that $7 million, a lot of people think detaching means going, I'll be okay if I don't get it, or I don't really want it, and just not wanting what you want or not believing what you've already seen as a vision, right? And we dispelled that last episode. That's not what we mean by detachment. Really, what we're talking about is neutralizing charge, right? And that goes in both directions. Neutralizing scarcity avoidance, scarcity programming, scarcity attachment. Some people really believe that they're always going to struggle, or their nervous system hasn't been built out to hold more abundance, or they think money is bad, or the good people they know are all living paycheck to paycheck, or they have thousands of money stories. You know, money's complicated because it involves identity. There's money stories. Then there's also, self-worth, self-esteem. It's a multi-layered, multifaceted process, but we have to let go of the charge and the programming and the attachment to false beliefs, to limiting beliefs. So what we're really releasing our attachment to is not the desired outcome, but it's actually all the things that stand in the way of the desired outcome. And that might include an obsession with the desired outcome, like if you're on a twin journey, or, if we're talking about manifesting a true divine counterpart, a lover, a committed partnership. In the example I was just talking about, if you're afraid of being single and alone, so you're desperately trying to manifest your husband because you just don't want to end up single and alone, that's the inappropriate energy, right? We have to neutralize the charge around being single and alone, get you to actually accept being single and alone. And from that place, when you no longer actually need to have a partner to feel fulfilled, is when he drops in and asks you for coffee and walks your dog and makes you come, right? So that's what the detachment is all about. Detaching from any sort of addictive quality around the desire, right? Maybe you want something for egoic, wounded reasons. Maybe you're trying to manifest 100K followers on TikTok just because you're feeling so invaluable and insignificant and unseen in your life. So you just want to be seen, right? If there's a desperation, if there's a wound that you're trying to cover over, or if you're hoping that the manifestation is going to fill you up and give you a feeling, right? And that's why they do and tell you that the emotion comes first. It's misguided to say, act like you already have it, because I do think that's just spiritual bypass and gaslighting. But it's remembering that if you want 7 million to feel ease and freedom, I'm not going to tell myself I have 7 million in my checking account when I don't. That's ridiculous. And people do that. That's not for me. And the reason why is not because it doesn't work. It absolutely works. I've seen it work over and over again. But it works in a witchcrafty kind of way, where then it crumbles, where you lose it all, where it comes with ramifications, and can be very, 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 very costly to you and those you love. But run your own experiments. You'll all come up with your own ethic. I'm just sharing what I've experienced. And what's been true for me and my clients and those that I love. If I believe that 7 million is going to afford me a degree of freedom and joy, I can still feel freedom and joy through other means. And I do every single day. So if we believe that I can only feel freedom and joy once I've made that 7 million, and I think a lot of men struggle with this, and women too, but I see it more with male clients and male friends. I can't rest until blank. I can't enjoy until blank. A lot of external extrinsic markers until that will then give them permission to feel joy. I can let myself be happy after I've booked 3 more clients. I can give myself permission to feel some bliss after I know that I have X amount in the bank. That's a false paradigm that will keep you chasing, right? That's just attachment to suffering. It's an inability to release attachment to victimhood, to overworking, to whatever those wounded imprints are that keep someone trapped in, a productivity cycle where they don't let themselves just be and live and experience pleasure. Often self-harming templates. I know those very well. I'll tell a brief story about attachment that's coming to mind. Actually, I'll tell 2. And then I'm going to hit the hay and I'll pick this up another time, perhaps in the daylight, perhaps under the moon. I'm going to make a little note of what they are because I often lose my train of thought when I'm channeling. Leg and dance. We start with dance. Okay, so it was my birthday 2 days ago. Happy birthday to me. I turned 36, which actually means I completed my 36th year and I'm embarking upon my 37th year. It's funny. Somehow that struck me very profoundly this year. I was thinking maybe because my nephew last year had his first birthday, and when you turn 1, you've just completed 1 year of life. It's very obvious. Like they weren't there, then they're there, then they completed their first year of life. So when they turn 1, celebrating the completion of the first year, and then that child is embarking on his second year. But I think as I got older, I kind of felt like, oh, when I turn 14, I'm stepping into my 14th year. Like I'm stepping into the year where I have 14 stamped on me. And every time someone asks me, like, I'm 14. But somehow it felt like a door that I was entering into. I'm entering into 14. And I've heard people say when they turn 33, like, oh, now it's my Christ year because I'm 33. But it's like you actually completed 33 just now and you're stepping into your 34th year. So it's kind of like a goodbye, like an exit door. Maybe everyone's felt into this, but for me, it suddenly felt profound this year. Like, oh, yeah, I'm turning 36, but like, now we on that 37th one, Anyway, it's my birthday. I decided it would be a really fun idea to go to a hip hop dance class on Wednesday morning at 10:30. It's the perfect time for me because like that's when my energy is peak nowadays. And I haven't gone to a dance class in over 5 months. I re-injured my ankle in November, and I initially heard I had to rest it for 100 days, meaning no dance, rest it from dance. I still walk my dog every day, and that was its own incredibly challenging process. Trying to heal it and walk him, but I did it. And at the time when I heard 100 days, I was like, oh, that's forever. That's like over 3 months. It's awful. And then the 100 days came and went, and I still got the guidance, you're not ready, you got to keep waiting. And I will listen to my body at all costs, pretty much. I will never betray my body again. And in the moments when I do, in micro moments, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you, body. Thank you for all that you've done for me. And I try so hard not to betray my body. Every once in a while it happens, but not my aim. I finally got the guidance that it was safe to go back to a dance class. I'd only done one dance engagement, one little competition since then, but otherwise I haven't danced at all. Haven't gone to a single class. So wow, my birthday will be my big reveal. My favorite teacher, Natalia, is teaching at a different studio. She does Wednesday sassy hip hop at a different studio, which is perfect because I'm kind of boycotting her other studio for reasons that I don't want to get into on here because I'm not trying to talk shit. But I was just like, yes, I get to take Natalia's class in a different setting. Best idea ever. Now, I wasn't necessarily, well, that's not true. I was disappointed. Okay, I go to the class. I get there, putting on my dance shoes. I'm warming up. And Natalia's nowhere in sight. And then somebody else comes in, and I intuitively hear, this is the teacher. We have a sub. And then shortly thereafter, she says she's subbing. And I immediately felt like this is not going to be good. She said she doesn't do much hip hop and she normally teaches young kids. Her energy was like preschool teacher. And it was like this weird, the choreography was wild. I kept my mouth shut, but other people kept asking like, what kind of dance is this? And she kept being like, sassy hip hop. And they're like, no. One girl's like, I feel like I'm playing basketball. Another's like, this is a jazz class. It was just the weirdest movement. It was so bizarre. And if I had been too attached to this is going to be hip hop and this is going to be Natalia, I would have just left once I realized that that's not what was happening. Like I probably would have left angrily, but I'm like, oh, that's what I wanted. And so if it's not that, I'm not going to do this. And I actually considered it, but got the guidance to stay. And I'm glad I did because I had an incredibly magical moment at the end of class. And this is what I was alluding to when I was talking about at the end of last episode, which I recommend listening to if you haven't yet. Attachment blinds us. It blinds us to so many other opportunities, and it also robs us, right? So if I had been so attached to Natalia's hip hop that when it wasn't Natalia and it wasn't hip hop, and I've never had a bait and switch like that where you go to a dance class of one genre and then you're doing something wildly different. We were doing some weird jazz, modern, fusion, lyrical, bizarre mime work. Like it was so weird. I don't know. It was not good. I did not enjoy the choreo. It was very odd. But if I had been so attached to what I wanted it to be and what I thought it was going to be, and it's my birthday and I signed up for this particular experience, I would have probably left and then I would have missed out on this magical moment from spirit. Magical moment, magical for me, might not be super magical for you, but at the end of class, Sub broke us up into two groups. We each performed the dance that we learned. First group goes, time for the second group, which I'm in. I walk to the dance floor. The door to the studio opens and a gentleman walks in, young, like, early mid-20s, chiseled body. And I perk up anytime I see a cute guy. It's just what happens. I'm like, ooh, I'm going to do this dance extra well. And I do it full out because I love an audience. I love the male gaze. He's cute. He's ripped, a little young for mama, but still fun. So I was definitely the only trained dancer in that class. So I certainly stood out. After I finished dancing, he starts talking to me like, oh, that was awesome. Well, we're talking. And then I realize, oh my gosh, I know you. I immediately blurt out loud, oh my gosh, you were the Scarecrow. 2 summers ago, I saw Impact Arts perform The Wizard of Oz on UT Austin's campus. It was the most spectacular performance I had ever seen, certainly of The Wizard of Oz, but one of the greatest shows I'd ever seen. And I've seen so many Broadway productions. These were young college kids that were just so phenomenal. And I remember telling my family and a few friends how remarkable the Scarecrow was, his physicality and the way he flopped onto stage and did all the dancing. He was literally a scarecrow come to life, and he was just so incredible. I was so impressed. And I somehow recognized him between his face and his body. So I blurt out, oh my God, you are Scarecrow. And he immediately drops into character, like, if I only had a brain, and lifts his elbows up in that Scarecrow, mode, and drops to his knees in that floppity Scarecrow dance, and completely went into character. And for those of you who don't know, I've had a lifelong connection to the Wizard of Oz. I've had multiple Wizard of Oz themed birthday parties. It's just so close to my heart. Had a long-standing identification with Dorothy. It's just my favorite movie of all time. There's so many things about it. I could get into that another time. But to have sort of the Scarecrow come to life on my birthday for me in that moment, and then he was so excited that I recognized him. His mom was in the class with me. She was so excited that I spotted her celeb son, musical theater celeb, some random person in Austin at a dance class recognizes her son who was in a show 2 years ago. And he was teaching a stretching class afterwards. So that's why he was in the studio. He came in early, just, the end of our class was an opportunity for him to watch some dancers before starting his class. So that was a really magical moment. That just felt like the universe giving me a little kiss. Like, you might not have exactly what you want today on your birthday. You might not have the person next to you that you want to spend it with, or XYZ, but we're so here with you. And we're so intimately curating an experience that you're going to love. And just to see a man in regular clothes flop into the scarecrow and go into song and dance in that moment. And yeah, it was really, really special. If I had been so attached to what I wanted for that hip hop class and had left, I would have missed what was probably one of, I would say it was the highlight of my day. Although, Kelly, you were a highlight too. So attachment, when we hyperfixate on one particular outcome, one particular desire, not only does it blind us to other options, often many of which are actually superior, but it often robs us. And you can think about that when we were talking about relationships, that women have these iconic glow ups after. It's often because being attached to that person robbed them of their energy, robbed them of their focus. So releasing attachment often yields really, really bountiful surprises from spirit. The other story that I wanted to tell you before bedtime was about my leg, and that's what notes are for. My leg. Oh, okay. Ask your body what you need, as always. Almost done, buddy. Today, I woke up in a tremendous amount of right leg pain, particularly my quad and my T-band. Often my right hip hurts. I had hip surgery many years ago, and that's just an old injury that aches and flares and it does its thing. But this felt different, and this was super, super severe. I was struggling walking, and I was like, fuck. I took Bubbles outside, and then I literally couldn't keep walking, and it's hump o'clock for him. I don't know if you could hear him tussling the couch pillows in the background. It's hump o'clock, guys. Sorry. It's witching hour. I was hopping back in the house. I was like, bro, not walking you today. Whatever. I can't. It was seizing up in pain. It was almost cramping. It felt so painful. And for me, someone who's had a lot of body trauma, when something goes wrong in my body, when I'm judging what I'm experiencing in my body as wrong, ow, my leg hurts, this is wrong, it's impacting my ability to walk, this is a problem. It's very easy for me to attach to wounded stories or to attach to fear and get scared. Oh no, I just went back to dance on Wednesday. Did I pull a muscle? Did I injure myself? How could I do this? Or I had a session with a client today who recently broke her right hip, and I often empathically feel what my clients are going through. No diggies, no Bubbles. Thank you. Sometimes he digs. This client is healing a hip injury and surgery 6 weeks ago. And on the days that I have sessions with her, my hip acts up. So I thought maybe this is an extension of that. Maybe it's my empathy. Brought that up to my buddy Jason, who is like, you're just virtue signaling that you have empathy. I'm like, nah, bro, not trying to virtue signal. In fact, it's one of the many reasons why I'm closing up shop, my intuitive business that I'm shutting down after 5 years. I know, Bubba, is in part, not in full, but in part due to how much I feel my clients and how hard it's been. Okay, I'll stop. When a symptom emerges in my physical body, I have a history of attaching to a story around it and often getting afraid. And so it's taken a lot of intentional effort to choose a new way. To allow myself to feel the feeling in my body and to trust that it's going to move out and through. I spoke about this in the last episode, the Megs teaching me about detachment really being more about allowing things to organically arise and then organically leave, right? So if I have an organic desire to be in a romantic union with my perceived twin flame, there will be moments throughout my day or throughout my life where I feel that desire. And then that wave of desire will move out and through, and I will redirect to other tasks in my life, right? I'm not going to be sitting there obsessing, ruminating all day about it. The people who are generally on karmic journeys or caught in obsession, not actually on a twin journey. Or maybe they're on a twin journey, but they need to release that obsessive, addictive, attached layer. So for me with my body, it's very easy to start to attach to fear. Oh no, did I really hurt my leg? Did I re-break it? Is there something wrong? You can hear Bubbles crying about this. Today I knew the pain was going to leave. And I knew it was spiritual and energetic because when I take any sort of medication or any sort of supplement for a phenomenon that's strictly spiritual, it doesn't work. That's often my cue, right? So I do believe everything is energetic and spiritual at its deepest layer, at its root. But sometimes someone will sprain their ankle or pull a hamstring or do something very physical, tweak their back when they're turning. And yes, I am of the mindset that there is still a deeper energetic layer that caused that physical thing to then happen, but there's still a structural and physical thing going on. There's still a physical etiology. When I take, turmeric or my naturopathic pain supplements or even Tylenol for something that has a physical pain manifestation, that supplement or medication helps and the pain gets a little bit better, the headache gets a little bit better, my ankle feels a little bit better, whatever it is. If it's strictly an energetic phenomenon like it was today, I was in this searing pain in my right leg. First I took my supplements, and 2 hours later I'm like, I need to pull out the big guns. Took out Tylenol, which is rare for me, and nothing. And that's when I really knew, okay, this is a full-on spiritual experience. I was hoping to get a little bit of pain relief, but a lot of reasons why it could be playing out. But I knew what was most important was to not fall into attachment. Don't start worrying that I can't dance again. Don't start worrying, oh no, do I have to cancel my 10:30's Pilates tomorrow? Should I reach out to them now? It's already 2:00. It would be rude not to give 24 hours notice, blah, blah. And my fear mind, the part of me that's ingrained and a deeply rooted pathway, goes into, what if something's seriously wrong? What if I need another surgery, right? It can be easy to attach. And the challenge and the task for me today was to remain unattached, to continue to feel this pain and to hobble around and get through my day and trust that it would leave and I would be fine. And this was a spiritual and energetic experience that was just going to move out and through. And sure enough, after I had a session with my client who is nursing hip recovery herself, 6 weeks out of the same hip surgery I got, which, I do feel there's a strong empathic feeling that I was experiencing. Once I finished that session and then I published my podcast episode, It's Time to Detach, and I sent my newsletter, the pain left. And I went on a 90-minute dance walk with Bubbles. I now do dance walks. Put on a little bodysuit, get those AirPods bumping, some Chris Breezy, and we just dance around the village, and he's much better behaved when I'm dancing than when I'm just walking. So that's Bubbles, not Chris Breezy. I sadly don't have much impact yet on his behavioral choices. But that faith in spirit, that faith in God, my faith in light, my faith in my channel is what enables me to not dip into attachment in moments like that where my history, where my wounding would have me attach to story making, to suffering, to victimhood, to fear, to future tripping, right? And it's all good. It's all good. Attachment can fuck up our lives in so many ways, as you're seeing here. Hopefully, a few little gems are starting to emerge in your awareness. If you ask yourself, what are you attached to that you're ready to release? And if you ask yourself, what are you avoiding that you're ready to confront, you're going to get a lot of data. I'd like to take a moment and quote the television show I'm currently watching, Brothers and Sisters, season 5, episode 5. Nora Walker is talking to her daughter who has recently lost her husband. Or maybe she's actually talking to her son. Either way, she's talking to one of her kids. And I wrote down the quote, not the whole scene context. Oh, it was her son. It was her son. I remember now because I'm reading the rest of the quote. But he's experiencing grief, and she says, you got to feel that grief. If you don't acknowledge and feel that grief and sadness, it will never get out of your way. Unacknowledged feelings will never get out of your way. Unacknowledged feelings are like drunken cousins at a wedding. They never shut up so you can hear anyone else. And you have to be able to hear what's next in your life, what path you might travel down, what path you might want to travel down, with or without children. He was uncertain whether he was going to have kids. You have to be able to see what's right there in front of your eyes. End quote. Unacknowledged feelings will never get out of your way. That's the thing about emotional unavailability. It's truly the avoidance of feelings, and that's a fear of what will happen if you actually feel your feelings, right? Do you fear that you'll rage out and become violent? I'll tell you, the most violent people I know are the ones who repress their anger and then act out in these explosive ways, right? Unacknowledged feelings will never get out of your way. And what we're trying to do is release our attachment to unacknowledged feelings because we wind up holding on to them. They stay stuck, right? You hear stories about men being tormented for the rest of their lives after like letting the love of their life get away, the one who got away. And part of why the story plagues them is not just the reality that the best sex I ever had or the kindest girlfriend I ever had or whatever the superlative they place on that person got away. Yes, that might be factual, but often there are unacknowledged feelings like shame or guilt that they're unwilling to feel at the emotional, energetic level. And so they stay at the level of story. Although sometimes, I don't even want to give that more life because that'll hurt somebody's feelings that I don't want to hurt. We can get attached to erroneous stories. My buddy Jason texted me out of the frickin' blue. The best predictor of couples fighting is their blood sugar level. The lower the couple's blood sugar, the more likely they are to argue. And I was like, yo, cite your sources. What the F are you talking about? And he did. The 2014 published findings, Bushman, DeWall, Pond, and Haynes, and the proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, low glucose relates to greater aggression in married couples, right? So this is regarding the unconscious motivations that shape behavior that we later rationalize and attribute to some kind of made up story, right? Like maybe I have this story that my ex always is like not thanking me after he talks to his cousin because his cousin hates me. I'm just trying to make up a story. That's not a good, I should have come up with something better, but you got the point. I come up with a narrative, maybe around insecurity, maybe around feeling let down. And maybe the truth is I'm just hungry. And maybe he's being snappy or snippy, or he thinks I'm being needy or too whatever, or not decisive enough, or who knows, or too loud, or I'm spilling something or whatever I'm doing. And he's getting pissed, but it's actually just because he's hungry, right? So like the fact that there's scientific data that shows the best predictor of couples fighting is their blood sugar level. And meanwhile, we're out here coming up with all these stories of what we think did or did not happen, or how we think that someone's actions relate to how much they love us, right? When we attach to these erroneous stories, we can create so much unnecessary suffering. The attachment is suffering. Whoa. All right. Okay. All right. Well, the jury has spoken. It's bedtime. Talk to you on the other side. And we're back at it. It's a new day, a new energy as I aim to wrap up this delightful episode. You can hear bubbles hydrating in the background. Let's use this as an invitation to ask our bodies what we need to finish out. Perhaps you want to take a moment and set an intention. Okay, let's dive in. So I was discussing in relation to my buddy's text how we attach to erroneous stories about our partners, right? And if couples are actually fighting because of something happening physiologically, like their blood sugar is low, but they're attaching meaning to a particular story, either about their wounding or about their partner's wounding, they create so much unnecessary suffering and perhaps miss the opportunity to see the truth, to see their partner for who they really are, right? If you're attached to a story about your partner, either like, my boyfriend's the absolute best, or my boyfriend never listens to me, like whatever, again, side of the coin you're on, generally being so attached to a story blinds you from what's actually happening. We're all imperfect people acting imperfectly, but people generally show you who they are. They show you with their actions, they show you with their energy, and releasing attachment to story enables us to see the truth, right? Take off those rose-colored glasses, or take off those incredibly critical glasses, whatever color lens you think those might be, and just see what's actually arising. When we attune to our environment and ourselves within the context of truth, when we attune truthfully to ourselves and our environment, that's when grace can come in. And we can notice if our partner's actually being supportive or actually not. And we save ourselves again from so much suffering. It doesn't mean we can avoid pain, right? But it's that pain times resistance equals suffering equation that I'm talking about. I couldn't get rid of the pain in my leg all day when I was experiencing it, but I knew it would leave more readily if I didn't attach a story to it, if I didn't attach to fear, if I didn't attach to my old identity as a patient princess. That used to be my Instagram handle, a little play on the word patient, because it was both like enacting patience, having to be patient, and also I was a perpetual patient for many years, and I very much identified with being a patient within the medical system, and then eventually, the sort of psychiatric system, a little offshoot of our medical system. When we attach, that's the resistance. So yes, we're going to experience pain. I experienced pain in my leg. I experienced pain of recent heartbreak. Yes, Bubba. I'm sure you felt pain too. But the suffering really gets amplified when we start resisting the experience or we start attaching to a story. Attachment shows up everywhere. And again, I really invite you to take a bit of energetic inventory after you listen to this episode, when you've let it land and percolate, and see where you're holding distorted attachments. Releasing attachment is not about letting go of the object of your attachment. It's not just about letting go of the thing. I'm not asking anyone to get rid of all your friends and your relationships and don't hold on to anything. It's about the energetic cord between you and that thing, you and that person. Is it healthful? If you were to imagine you're doing a cord cutting, for those of you who have intuitive sight, do you see that cord slack throughout? And is the diameter and circumference of that cord the same throughout? Or is there a strong pull or push or tug? Is there electricity? Does it feel like bondage, right? What is the nature? What is the qualitative nature of the connection? It's about that energetic charge there. And we can become attached to so many things. We can become attached to the past. Some people live their lives beating themselves up over decisions they've made in the past and living in regret. If only I hadn't left that place. If only I hadn't married this person. I've seen it. I speak to clients about it all the time. Attached to identities, attached to a particular person's validation, trying to make so-and-so proud. People can become attached to abusive partners. Can literally kill you. Can literally kill you. People become attached to energy vampires. We'll do a whole episode or multiple about that. Can be attached to a narcissist. Not sure I've ever had more to say about any topic ever. I could talk about this forever, but everyone's talking about it right now on social media. But I have a lot to say about what happens to a highly sensitive person when they're attached to a narcissist. You can be attached to a cult, right? These things you can feel how detrimental attaching to them is. Some of these examples are very extreme. There's some that you may feel are less extreme, but to me are equally extreme. Attached to your phone. Oof. These types of attachment can result in timeline theft, destruction, and death. Literally kill you. Rob you of what's rightfully yours. Again, it's not about not having relationships to things like your phone and your friends. It's about using discernment and being aware of the nature of the relationships. We are meant to be in relationships. It's a relational reality. But we don't want to become addicted. And most of us are addicted to something in some capacity. It's a very addicted culture right now. So just getting curious, what am I really holding on to tightly? What am I reaching for, yearning for? What am I addicted to? And what am I afraid of? What am I avoiding? How strongly am I attached to my ego, to story? Can I step into life with patience, tolerance, and love, and clear sight? And if you have attachments in your life that you feel you haven't been able to change or release that feeling of bondage or compulsion, again, I really encourage you to seek out professional help. I also invite you to tune into your intuition. So ground your energy in whatever way that's possible. Connect to your body. Ask it what it needs. You might get a laundry list. Bare feet on the grass, water, do a silent meditation for 10 minutes. Visualize golden roots like roots of a tree growing out from the soles of your feet or your sits bones and creating a circle around you and traveling down, 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 linking up with the core of the earth, connecting to that Gaia frequency. There's so many ways to ground, but in some way, ground your energy. Then take a moment to tap into God, spirit, the divine, Father Sky, whatever tradition you're you're participating with has some sort of divinity concept connect to that. I like to visualize a white, gold, or rainbow light above my head, pouring into my crown, filling me up with light. Take a moment to start to feel your energy, feel your body, and ask your own system what it would need to embody readiness to change the nature of the attachment. What would it take to embody readiness? Just want to take a moment and honor the Chris that I mentioned earlier when I was talking about fear is faith in the wrong God. That is Chris Valaton. He is the senior associate leader of Bethel Church in California and co-founder of Bethel School of Supernatural Ministry. Chris Valaton. And just feeling like I need to hammer home, you can't have fear without faith. So a lot of people who are so fearful say like, I can't have faith or I struggle with having faith. You very much have faith. If you are in deep fear, if you are a highly anxious person, you have a tremendous amount of faith. You just have faith in negative outcomes, faith in the wrong God, you know, what someone from Chris's tradition would say, like faith in Satan or the demonic realm, right? That's languaging that a lot of you probably wouldn't resonate with. But that means that the raw materials for faith and faithfulness are there. Also think it's really interesting, and it somehow just struck me right before I turned the mic on. When I first learned how to clear darker energies and dark interference with a woman named Karen in Los Angeles, I called it checking for attachments. Like, what is attached to me? Fragments, cords, demons, reptilians, ghouls, ghosts, goblins. You know, I could start listing off all sorts of things that a lot of you would think, again, is crazy or is just not real, and you're entitled to that opinion. But those were called attachments when we would talk about a new type of attachment. These are things, darker entities that can attach to your energy field, to your energy body. And I never really made the connection between that attachments and the attachments that I'm speaking of, or the concept of attachment in this more Buddhist tradition, in the idea of using attachment as a word to mean how we grip to things. But it's so interesting. It's the same, and it yields the same thing. It distorts our reality, creates illusion, it creates suffering. What we aim to do is dispel the illusion of attachment, dispel the illusion of the bubble, and see the whole field beyond the bubble or without the bubble, without the veil of illusion, without the attachments that might be siphoning your energy, might be cutting you, death by 1,000 cuts. Attachments always inherently inflict harm. I did also want to take a moment and honor the recovery community, because I know I was giving a little bit of shit to Coda meetings in my previous episode, because I did think it was wildly ironic and inappropriate to have a group of codependents, in theory, in a room talking about, you know, this codependent person, I'm codependent with my mom, with my brother, with my cousin, with my wife, and then get a sponsee, or you have a sponsor who then you just create another codependent relationship with, and it just felt like this codependent spiral. And I still stand by that. But the recovery community also gave me so much, so I am very blessed for it and by it. And one of those components that really graced my life was a Serenity Prayer. The first time I said the Serenity Prayer, I was at Sierra Tucson Rehab. I guess a decade ago now. Wild. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Huddled up with a group of people on their own path of healing, saying that, there's something so powerful. God, grant me this serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. It's basically saying, help me release attachment and have faith. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Grant me that peace to accept what's true, the strength, the discipline, the power, the courage to enact change where change is needed, and the wisdom, the sight, the clarity, the deep knowing to be able to discern what can I control and what is outside of my control. Where can I take action and where do I need to release and let go? An absolutely exquisite prayer. So I do invite you to play with that. I'm going to take a moment and tune in, see if there's anything else that wants to come through in this latter episode. Again, my hope is that you depart this listening experience feeling like you gained some perspective and you were able to start to tinker with me, or you have some tools now to tinker on your own, to start to really examine what you might be afraid of and avoiding, right? I talked about fearing being single and alone. The other side of that coin, the avoidance side of that coin, fear of commitment, right? I had a massive fear of commitment that I sort of worked to white knuckle over by getting Bubbles, my dog. A few masculines pressured me into that. What a great way to learn commitment. This is a child. He's turned out to be much more of a child than a dog, much more of a son than I realized, forcing me to learn commitment, to embody commitment, to face that. If there's something you're really fearfully avoiding, there's medicine there. There's an opportunity to lean in and see what you're actually putting your faith in. What kind of anxieties and pessimistic outlooks are you putting your faith in? Once you identify any wounds, identities, stories, people, relationships, anything that you feel, okay, there's some sort of attachment here that's not healthful, it's not secure, it's distorted, it's wounded, it's insecure, but you don't yet feel ready to do anything about it. You're so scared of letting this person go. You're holding on tightly, you know you are, but you can't let go. One example. Ask your vessel, the intuitive intelligence, the body wisdom, the innate knowing. Ask your own intuition what it can do to embody readiness. And you might get some inklings about things that you feel are not directly correlated. Maybe you hear you need to start weightlifting, doing some strength training. Maybe you never did that before. Maybe you get a book recommendation. It's My Life Now. That's a book that recently was recommended to me by Spirit. So it is my life now. Ta-da! You will get nudges that will help you embody readiness. And when you're ready, you will be able to change or release the attachment. Also wanted to offer this. These are 3 questions my old mentor Justin used to hammer in to me. They were so important to consider when he initially brought this to my attention when I was applying to work for this company, Life with Lydia, that was eating disorder online coaching. They claimed that it was this 8-week program or however many weeks. You work with these coaches, beat the binge, you beat your binge, you heal and completely recover from your binge eating disorder. And I was doing sales calls for them, which was awful. But anyway, the 3 questions: who is your method not for? How do you tell? And what do you do when you discover somebody it's not for? Right? Those 3 questions my boss was unwilling to touch at all because she was coming very much from a sales place of like, I want to get every single person who has an eating disorder into my coaching program. And that's a huge red flag, obviously, because there are always going to be people who your method, whatever your hammer is, right? I have an intuitive lens, an energetic lens. And, if you have a hammer, the world's a nail. So that's always how I'm going to be viewing reality. If you are an NLP coach and that's your your framing, your background, you're going to see most problems through that structure, and that's going to be your tool. Whatever your method is, you have to remember there are going to be people that your method is not for, that maybe it's even contraindicated. Like there are certain borderline personality individuals whom I believe enhancing their psychic sight is actually detrimental to their well-being. I don't think intuitive development is great for that personality type. I think they often lack the ability to discern between fantasy and true visions and are unwilling to do the shadow work that has to accompany true psychic development and intuitive training to be able to feel the qualitative difference because they don't want to. And then they get caught up in a luciferic fantasy. It can be very dangerous. Who is your method not for? How do you tell? How do you tell that this is not for them? Either that it could make things worse or it just doesn't work for them. Right? Maybe your method really only works for people who have this characteristic, and this particular wounding, but it's actually not good for those who have childhood sexual trauma. Right? Getting really serious about who is your method for, how do you tell, and what do you do when you discover or encounter somebody it's not for? Right? If somebody comes to you wanting your help, but you realize this is outside my scope, or my method is not actually for you, how do you deliver that? And where do you guide that person next, right? These are really important questions to be asking if you're in any sort of space holding capacity like I am. I'd like to conclude by reading some words from Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way. Okay, creative affirmations. 1. I am a channel for God's creativity and my work comes to good. 2. My dreams come from God and God has the power to accomplish them. 3. As I create and listen, I will be led. 4. Creativity is the Creator's will for me. 5. My creativity heals myself and others. 6. I am allowed to nurture my artist. 7. Through the use of a few simple tools, my creativity will flourish. 8. Through the use of my creativity, I serve God. 9. My creativity always leads me to truth and love. 10. My creativity leads me to forgiveness and self-forgiveness. 11. There is a divine plan of goodness for me. 12. There is a divine plan of goodness for my work. 13. As I listen to the Creator within, I am led. 14. As I listen to my creativity, I am led to my Creator. 15. I am willing to create. 16. I am willing to learn to let myself create. 17. I am willing to let God create through me. 18. I am willing to be of service through my creativity. 19. I am willing to experience my creative energy. 20. I am willing to use my creative talents. May those words ignite a remembrance of your own creative potential. You are a creative being. You can create a life by design. You can create new realities. You can create timeline shifts. You can create changes in relationship dynamics. You can create healing. You can create miracles. I love you so much. Thank you so much for tuning in to It's Time with Jillian Melissa. If you're feeling like it's time to leave that toxic relationship, launch that business, share your voice with the world, if you're feeling like it's time for whatever, it probably is. So I invite you to trust your intuitive compass. And if you're feeling like it's time to connect with me, I invite you to follow me on Instagram at JillianMelissa_intuition. That's really the hub of all my content, and using the link in bio, my link tree, you can access links to book a private session with me. You can join my monthly membership community through Patreon. I post upcoming workshops, group channeling classes, intuitive guidance gatherings, and much more. So that's really the best way to stay connected with my energy. My hope is that you bestow love on all those who cross your path. And until we meet again, I love you.